What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Adam. This is Vancity Audi, and this video is going to summarize from start to finish what it took Rider Performance and I to figure out what was causing my V8 S4 to break up and misfire on wide open throttle during my quarter-mile runs. For those of you familiar to the channel, you may be a subscriber, you may have seen that I did back-to-back 10 nines in this beast of a machine. But then the very following time that I went out to Mission Raceway Park for the final quarter-mile day of the year with the greatest racing conditions I have ever experienced, and it fell flat on its face, doing the exact same damn thing that we thought we figured out previously. It was breaking up insanely bad and misfiring like crazy through the quarter-mile run, to the point where I felt it was dangerous for the car to continue, pulled the plug and stopped racing for the year. What a crap way to finish off the year, but I'm very thankful that we figured it out. 2 days after that video, we managed to figure it out. The car is running perfectly and has been running perfectly to this very day. To the people that have asked me for this video, I am very, very sorry. It took me so damn long to get this together. I've been scratching my head trying to figure out how to lay this video out for you guys so it wasn't super boring to watch. It's gonna be a ton of me talking. I'll do the best that I can to explain every step we took. It was a process of elimination, one by one, as we slowly narrow down what the possible cause of our issues could be. So I'm going to start at the very, very beginning from when we first started experiencing it, and that was at the Stage 2 dual pulley E40 with a throttle body installed. That was when we really started noticing it. The full McGee, all the power, all the jam that you could ask for with a full bolt-on setup, that is when we really started noticing all this breakup and all the misfires up top. So I'll start from the beginning, I'll go all the way through to the very end, and at the end of this video, you will find out the most weird, peculiar, and unexpected reason for the problems to have been caused in the first place. I'm gonna lay it out here on this whiteboard for you all. We're starting off with the most simplistic thing, something that people don't do, and I don't understand why, is data log your damn car. The most simple thing to do. If you don't know how to do it, in the description below, I will put a link to the video that I have shot on how to data log your V8 with VCDS or Integrated Engineering's PowerLink cable. On to step number 2. Once we had reviewed the logs and did not see an issue with anything out of the ordinary, we shrunk the spark plug gap from 26 thou down to 24 thou. So we pulled out all 6 plugs, shrunk the gap to 24 thou, did absolutely nothing. Was breaking up exactly the same as it was before. Once we shrunk the gap and that didn't work, the next thing we went with was fueling. We replaced the OEM low pressure fuel pump with another one. We didn't upgrade the pump, we just put a brand new OEM Bosch low pressure fuel pump in there to see if we could increase the fuel pressure on the low pressure side. And what I'll do right now is I'll show you guys on my data logs what the low pressure looked like before we replaced the pump and after. So you can see the actual increase in pressure from replacing the pump itself. The pump we had in the car had approximately 140,000 kilometers on it, so it did have some definite wear and tear, but you guys will be able to see from the logs exactly how much fuel pressure it gained from replacing it with a brand new pump.
This log is actually from the very first time I managed a 10-second run in this car, running a 10.9 at 124. The car was struggling and breaking up, and I still managed that 10, but this log was a telltale sign that I needed a new pump. At the top of first gear, I see 4165 for my low pressure fuel pump pressure. At the top of second, we see 4149. At the top of third, we see 4080, and at the top of fourth, we're seeing 4200. If you guys remember me mentioning, 4500 is the lowest that Integrated Engineering says that I should have. Here's the first run that I performed right after we installed the new low pressure fuel pump using an E40 content. And as you guys can clearly see, my fuel pressure had drastically improved. We're seeing 46.30 at the top of first. We're seeing 47.49 at the top of second. We are seeing 48.25 at the top of third. Sadly though, the car was still breaking up even though we managed much higher fuel pressure.
So we most certainly saw a bump in fuel pressure on the low pressure side. It helped out the entire fuel system by putting in that new pump. It was still breaking up though. So again, back to the beginning, what could it be? So we're on to step number 4 now on what we did to diagnose the problem. At this point, we were really getting fed up, so we did 2 changes at the same time. We switched from Brisk DR12S plugs to NGK BR9 EIXs. At the same time, we replaced all of my 6 coil packs with brand new OEM coil packs. So plugs and coils at the same time, and we dropped the new plugs down to 24 thou. I gotta be real with you guys, we were super optimistic about this one. We felt like we took care of the fueling with that low pressure fuel pump, so we're thinking, could there be a possibility that we're not getting enough spark? It could be possible. So we switched them all, went out, did the logs. Again, a very, very slight improvement, whether it was the plugs, whether it was the coil packs. We ultimately don't know because we did them at the same time, but we were still experiencing breakup. On to number 6. Now for those that watched that video where I ran back to back 10-second runs, you will remember me talking about the fuel pressure sensor on the fuel rail that we replaced, and the car managed to run extremely well. So by popping off the entire blower underneath on the fuel rail, there's a fuel pressure sensor that we ended up replacing with another OEM sensor. Then we ran those quarter-mile runs, car ran like a hot damn, and everything looked like everything was gonna be okay. I think it was the following week that I went out and data logged the car some more, just to be on the safe side. The car was breaking up again. Even though the car ran really well on that day with those 10-second runs, it was a week, it might even been less than a week, like maybe 5 days later, the car was breaking up again. So on to number 7 as the next thing we tried to make sure that this problem would go away. So even though the code that was present was representative of the fuel pressure sensor on the fuel rail, we decided to replace the fuel pressure sensor on the high pressure fuel pump as well. So once you remove the air intake system, right underneath there is the high pressure fuel pump. Popped off the high pressure fuel pump, there is a sensor on there that reads your fuel pressure. So there are the 2 fuel pressure sensors on these cars. That was the second of the 2, and they had now both been replaced with brand new parts. And that still didn't work. Brand new low pressure fuel pump, brand new fuel sensors on the high pressure fuel pump and the fuel rail, and we were still experiencing breakup. New coil packs, new spark plugs, shrunk the gap, logged the hell out of the car. What could it still be? Number 8 on the list, we tried lowering the ethanol content. When I first switched over to ethanol, it was in the middle of the summer. The temperatures were pretty warm, and I never had any issue running a higher ethanol content. At the peak of the summer, I was running an E40 blend. Very high. It was working flawlessly, no hiccups, no breaking up, no misfires. The car was working really well. But as we got into the fall, it got colder and colder and colder, meaning the air was much, much more dense. There was more oxygen in the air, meaning your car needs more energy and more fuel. Ethanol in general has 30% less energy than pump gas, meaning you need roughly 30% more of it to generate all those wonderful horsepowers. So we're like, well, it's getting cold now, like significantly colder than it was before. So as I mentioned in my previous videos, when I ran those 10s, I was running the E40, dropped down to E45, and on that particular day with my boogie juice concoction, the car ran flawlessly. But I'm thinking, the tune's called E40 for a reason. There's a reason why all the tuners say that's the max number you can go with. So I dropped it down to E40, E42 in that range, still having breakup. So I'm like, we got nothing to lose. Like, I have to figure this out. So I dropped it down below E40. I was about E37, E38, tested it, it improved a bit more. There was just little spots, little hiccups of misfires, little spots of breakup. I was so close to figuring this out. So I'm like, what else could it be? There has to be something I haven't tried. And I finally figured it out. Step number 9, and the answer to all of our problems was replacing the battery. Check this out, guys. All of these problems, I bet you, could have all been wiped clean if I did this first. Here it is, guys. The problem all along, our Braille racing battery, a lithium racing battery. This is my 11-pound battery out of my RS3 race car. So once I had removed this battery out of the Audi RS3, I put it on a battery charger, a specific lithium-ion battery charger. It took the charge and ramped it back up to 100% state of charge. I then reached out to Braille and said, I got this battery. Would you recommend it for an Audi S4, a 2012 application? They said, actually, that's the exact battery we'd recommend. So I thought, score, I just saved a bunch of money and a bunch of weight being able to use this in this car. So I tossed it in this car, coded the car to the battery, thought we were good to go. It was only a couple weeks after I had started using this battery that we noticed all of these issues coming up. So I stupidly did not tie them together. I thought it was something else. So what I ended up doing is I thought, in the very, very end, obviously, I've been through everything now, could it be the battery? So I connected VCDS to the car and I logged the battery voltage that I was seeing while cruising and while at wide open throttle. At wide open throttle, from what I've seen in the past in my RS3 and in this car when it's working properly, is 13.2, 13.1, 13, depending on the different things you have in the car going, your accessories, your heat, seat warmers and stuff like that, that all comes into play. But that's on average what I was seeing. With this damn battery in that car, it was dropping down to 12.2. Way, way underpowered and not providing the proper voltage needed to my fuel pumps. Here it is, guys. The battery that saved the day. I had already replaced the battery that came with this vehicle with a brand new Costco battery. Gave me all the juice I need and the problem was apparently solved. So I got my oh so sick Costco battery back in the car, went out and did another log. Absolutely no breakup whatsoever. I was utilizing about E38 at that time. The voltage that I was seeing was 13.1, 13.2 at wide open throttle. My fuel pressure was the best it's ever been. Much higher than it was before. Everything felt so much better because it was getting the juice it needed to run properly. My fuel pumps were getting all the power they needed to push that fuel through the system, which was what it was not getting before. So I'm thinking I'm at E38 and I finally figured out the problem. I bet you I can bump up the ethanol content. So I bumped it back up to E41, and even in these crazy, crazy good conditions that we have here in BC, Canada, with our very cold, crisp air, very low density, it worked. E40, E41. If I bump it up to E42, E43, it still breaks up.
We've got a new battery, we've got E40 content, and I am seeing absolutely no breakup anymore. Here's my fuel pressure at the top of first gear, 51.47, top of second gear, 54.95, top of third gear, 55.45, and at the top of fourth gear, all the way up to 57.71, making huge amounts of fuel pressure out of that low pressure fuel pump.
So we have to keep it at that E40 level at most for the fuel system to be able to handle it. Now that we know what the problem is, it feels so damn good. The car is back where it should have been for months now. Can you guys imagine how much quicker I would have been able to go? How much faster I would have been able to go if the damn car was running right? I'm glad that I figured it out, honestly. I shouldn't say I should say we. Rider Performance and I figured it out, just trying one thing after another. Also with the help of Integrated Engineering, I was sending them logs, I was asking them questions. We did everything we could and we finally figured it out. So the purpose of this video is to hopefully help all of you that have reached out to me. I am flabbergasted by the amount of people that have DM'd me over the past few months saying they have the exact same issue. For those of you ignorant ones, will say, to put it very politely, that instantly jump to, it's the tune, man, integrated engineering, it's the tune. It had nothing to do with the tune at all. Zero. Many people have reached out to me, other people using other companies' tunes, all suffering from a very similar issue. I'm hoping that these step-by-step procedures might help you figure it out. Make sure that E-content is not too high. Make sure you have the proper voltage. If you're not seeing the fuel pressure, you might need to replace a high pressure fuel pump, a low pressure fuel pump, a fuel pressure sensor. But we're hoping that after all is said and done, we're able to help the majority of you out there figure out your problems, hoping that those misfires, that breaking up that you are experiencing at wide open throttle on an E40 tune from whatever tuner you're using, hopefully we can sort that out for you and you can enjoy your car as much as I am again. Cars flying, cars making a bunch of power again. So stay tuned to the channel. I got one more trip to Racing Greed to see what this thing makes. Full beans, every bolt-on that Integrated Engineering offers with some Merc Racing parts to see how much power this thing can make on an all-wheel drive Mustang dyno in the weeks to come. Stay tuned to the channel, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.